Good morning, everybody. Welcome to TED Talks Ball. We've got a Tuesday morning edition, 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Super excited to welcome Teran Lewis. You guys may know him as at TL 49er Magic _23 on Twitter. You may also know him from Mariah Faithfully at 49 Faithfully podcast. They're a great duo doing great shows. Teran's been on TED Talks Ball before, so thanks for coming back. I appreciate it. And let everybody know what you got going on, anything I may have missed, omitted, anything like
Yeah.
that.
No, you pretty much hit everything on the head. I mean, yeah, you can find me on Twitter. That's my only social media platform. I don't do Instagram or Facebook or none of that. And so I just do Twitter, like Ted said, TL49 or Magic _23. Everybody always asks me, what does the Magic stand for? It's like I'm an Orlando Magic fan. So I put 49er Magic just to combine the two teams together. So, and 23 is the day I was born on. So I can be joined. Me and Mariah will be doing our show this Thursday coming up. But can't remember the time, but just stay tuned for that. So I love talking 49er football with people from everywhere. I know you're in California, but 49ers fans are so global. I guess you can say that you can go anywhere and find 49er fans. I move I didn't move. When I went to Texas to go visit my mom at the end of May, matter of fact, on Memorial Day weekend, I saw a few 49er fans walking around Fort Worth. So, yeah, it's awesome, man.
Nice, nice. Well, thanks for the explanation into your handle. The TL 49er Magic. Yeah, I might have thought Magic Johnson, except for he was 32, right? Not 23.
Yes, he was
So,
32, correct. Yeah.
and then when I see 23, the first thing I always think of is Michael Jordan. And a lot of people now think CMC, took 23 with
Mm,
us after being 22 at the Panthers for many
yeah.
years. But cool to know that that's the day of your birthday. I won't ask you what month, but feel free to disclose if you like.
It doesn't matter. My birthday's in October, so October
October
23rd. Yeah.
23rd.
Matter of fact, I
So
share
that
a birthday
makes
with
you
Bosa.
a Libra, right? Oh,
No, I'm a
Bosa. No,
Scorpio. Yeah, I'm a
no.
Scorpio. Actually, it's the first day of Scorpio actually, and I actually
So
share.
it's
It's funny.
cusp.
It's cusp. Yeah, it's funny. I share a birthday with Nick Bosa, and it was funny because
Damn.
um, I don't know if you remember. I know you're a basketball fan. You remember Keith Van Horn?
Sure, of course, yeah.
I have his. Me and him. We have the same birthday as well. So yeah,
Keith Van Horn, and then that reminds me of Rick Mahorn too,
Rick.
of
Oh my
course.
God, that guy. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
bad boy Piston. Yep.
Bad boy Pistons. They were
Yep.
they were tough, tough.
Yep. Yes,
They
they
made
were.
life hell on Michael Jordan early on, no doubt.
Yes.
Him and Lane Beer and
John
obviously
Sally and
Isaiah, John
Isaiah.
Sally. They were
Yeah, Isaiah
tough, tough
Thomas.
dudes.
Yeah, that
No
was a tough
messing around.
team.
People left there with like stitches and busted bones and
Yeah, yeah.
all kinds of maladies.
It's
Brian Culp in
crazy.
the house,
Hey,
giving us
Brian.
the 4 pineapples, and with him, that translates to 4 fires. He does that as an homage to George Kittle's video, the revealing pineapple video that he did, obviously. And then Alex Simpson coming to us from across the pond, saying hey with a couple waves for us. Thanks, Alec. Great to see you. Bryant's saying hi to Alec. He's saying hi to Ted and TL. Thank you, Bryant. Appreciate it. And they're just saying hi to one another. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. We
Yep.
appreciate it. It always makes things better. Great. I say, great guests and great audience make for good shows for me.
Most
You
definitely.
guys carry me a little bit like old Jimmy G got carried. So I appreciate the help. Keeps me
Oh,
afloat.
Ted. That's funny. Gotta throw that in there real quick. That's funny. You're hilarious.
No doubt, no doubt. So, let's see. I titled the show something to the effect of, Purdy making progress. There was a report from Tom Pelissaro that I attached to the show. See if I can find that. But basically, he's going to visit with a doctor. It's interesting to me that it's not the doctor who performed the surgery, who's out of Dallas, who's the Rangers pitch, physician surgeon who performs a lot of UCL surgeries on baseball players. But instead, it was a guy with a different name, and I'm just kind of scrolling through to see if I can find that. But ultimately, I guess I know I can find it more quickly
Yeah.
instead of
You talking
scrolling
about
through
the
my
gentleman he's
timeline.
gonna go see in Jacksonville, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's here we go. It's Tom Gormley, Gormely. Another sign that Purdy is progressing through his rehab following his elbow surgery and remains on track to be ready for the 2023 season. And interesting that Tom Pelissaro didn't say week 1 of the 2023 season because nobody knows,
Exactly.
because there's so little data on these things. Um, the only other QB who's had the surgery is Nick Mullins, and it's very unclear if he's 100% now, 2.5 years later. So even really, really unclear if Nick Mullins was 100% after only 6 months. He didn't play in an NFL regular season game for, I think it was a year, day to day. He got injured
Mm,
on the 20th of December of 2020 in Dallas for us. And then he played on the 20th of December 2021 for the Browns against the Raiders and lost. Only threw for 147 yards. Um, and then hasn't played a
mm,
regular season game since then, or at least not a full one.
mm-hmm.
So, to say that Nick Mullins is 100%, I think, is a stretch. There was an interesting, I don't know, did you see or listen to the podcast where Jennifer Lee Chan interviewed him at Tight End University? He was there. Nick Mullins was there with of course, Trey Lance.
Mm.
Also, Sam Darnold was there. We know also that Josh Allen was there. That's 4. There probably weren't many more QBs than that, but there might have been. Those are the 4 that I know.
Mm.
But I was curious to know if you
No,
saw that interview or heard
mm,
about it.
no, I didn't see anything with her on there.
Okay. It was interesting because he said, basically like, there's the physically getting ready and being cleared to play. And then there's the mental side, and that's the much bigger side. Learning to trust your arm to like throw 100%, learning to, he didn't say this part, but it's obvious that you have to get synced back up with your weapons in Kyle's
Sure.
system. And then he did, and you also have to be ready to take a hit in the NFL. Most of the data is on pitchers pitching from mounds that don't have to worry about 300-pound monsters trying to tear them limb from limb.
Trying to
So
land on them, and yeah, for sure.
they
Yeah,
say you never play with a bandage because people aim for it. Got to figure people will be aiming for Purdy's arm to test it and see if it's 100%.
yeah. Sad situation, but true. I mean, they're gonna look at it, every advantage they have to try to either get in his head, or to try to win the game, or whatever the case may be. So they know that that right arm is a weakness, so that they're gonna be coming for it, unfortunately. And you made a great point about the mental aspect thing. I think the physical part is probably the easy part. You know what I mean? You have somebody who's license, and the physician, whatever the case may be, telling you, okay, this is what you need to do to get back into it. But the mental is going to be all on you. And I remember the Adrian Peterson situation when he tore his ACL, and then he came back in 7 months, and he rushed for over 2,000 yards that very next season. And he
He was
said the same thing.
incredible.
He said the same thing. He was like, it wasn't the physical aspect, it was the mental. I needed to go out there and just play and not be scared, and just know, like, if I play scared, I'm gonna hurt myself again. So the fact that he went out there, he didn't play scared, and then he crushed it a year later, just shows how important the mental aspect of this is.
Absolutely. Any major injury, there's when you're ready physically, and a lot of times a lot longer when you're ready mentally, especially for quarterbacks that have to stand in there and wait for a big hit to come, wait for someone to uncover before they throw, and know that they're going to get clobbered. It can be tough to do after an ACL, an Achilles, a patellar tendon tear. And this UCL is a major injury, and it's to his throwing arm. So anybody
Yes.
discounting the severity of it needs to think twice about that. David McNew in the house saying, what up, Ted and TL, LFG, let's F and go 49ers with the 4 pineapples, of course. Saying hi to Bryant. Alex Simpson got jokes. Was Josh Johnson not invited to Thailand University? I don't know. I don't. He might have been invited. I don't think he went. I honestly don't think he got invited.
No.
No. But he did get signed by the Ravens, so he's
Oh,
not like he's out of the league or anything like that. He's obviously Lamar's number one, and Tyler Huntley is number two there,
True.
but Josh Johnson is number three. So, I never root for injuries, but there's a chance we might see Josh Johnson play some there this year, um, the way that Lamar has been getting injured more recently.
Yes.
Sim in the house, Big Ted, TL Smooth. It's been a
That's
while
right.
since I've seen you, Sim. Thanks for showing up. Love your takes. This guy is so underrated.
He
I wish we
is.
saw more of him on the timeline. He keeps a pretty low presence on there. When we were in a chat group together, I saw a lot more of him. Maybe I'll have to ask Kali to add you to. He's got a newer one going, and we got to get Sim in there for
Yeah,
sure.
Sam. Yeah, you're right. He's very underrated. He has some entry. He has some awesome takes. Very knowledgeable. And let me give a shout out to you, Sam, because I know you're a Houston Rockets fan. You guys had an excellent draft, man. That was amazing. Um,
They got
yeah.
Wembanyama, right?
No, no, no. You're thinking of the Spurs.
Oh, the Spurs. That's
Houston
right. The
Rockets.
other
They
Texas
got
team.
one of the Thompson twins, and then they got Cam Whitmore out of the University of Villanova. He was supposed to be a top 5 pick, and then there was words that he didn't interview well, and he had some yellow flags on his medical, so they picked him at number 20 as well. So they had the 5th pick and the 20th pick, and they got a top 5 talent with pick 20. So yeah, so they ended up getting 2 top 5 talents in the draft, which was amazing. So
Good for
yeah,
them.
it's funny about Josh Johnson, man, going to him. No matter how
Yeah,
people think about him, no matter what, he always keeps a job in the NFL.
he does.
Always, like no
He,
matter
he
what, like
bounces
he keeps a job.
a lot of times with us. I mean,
Yeah,
we have three big boomerangs on the Niners. Josh Johnson is in third place. Uh, and then Jordan
Jordan
Matthews, the
Matthews. Yep,
wide receiver turned tight end, would be in the number 2 slot. And the number 1 boomerang, always back on the Niners after being
Dante
cut,
Johnson.
Dante Johnson, cornerback, nickelback, safety extraordinaire. Very,
Yep.
he's very well-rounded in kind of sucking at all those positions. Really, I mean, I mean he's decent. He's good for what
Yeah,
he is.
he's good. I
I
mean,
mean, there's a
he's a
reason he
fourth
gets
stringer.
signed back.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Yep.
and I was sad to see him tear his ACL towards the end of last season. Hopefully, he'll
Yes.
be back before too long this season.
Hmm.
So let's see what else. They're saying hi to one another. Bryant says Ravens, correct. I said Eagles last night. We all make mistakes, Bryant, but at least you're big enough to man up to it and admit it.
Yep.
That's the key. Just admit when you're wrong.
That's it.
Try not to repeat it again, and move along. Right? That's all we can do. My bad. I was wrong. Good
That's it.
point. Those are all things you can look for on my timeline if you want to see
That's what makes a
places where I
real
was
man.
wrong.
That's what makes a
Yeah.
real man to me. When you can sit there and admit you made a mistake and apologize, and you know what, I was wrong. Yeah, I see too much of that on the timeline of grown men who don't want to man up and admit that they made a mistake. So,
Just like me, Brent said, "My bad." LOL. I say that a lot
uh,
with an exclamation point. Thanks a lot, Sam. The love is real, no doubt about it. Back at you. Amen. Thompson. Oh, when you said Thompson twins, all I could think about was like, that '80s band. Hold
oh
me now.
yeah,
Oh, hold my
yeah,
heart.
I know exactly what you're talking
Uh,
about. They're from the Bay Area, actually, the
stay
Thompson twins.
with me.
Yeah, they're from
Yeah, maybe
Oakland,
that's why I know
California.
him so well.
Yeah,
Let
they're from.
love and start. Oh. Anyway, I better not sing. It's always trouble when I try to start throwing
It
out
didn't
bars
sound. It
like
didn't
that.
sound too bad though. I give you some props. It didn't sound too bad.
I definitely grew up on that quite a bit in the '80s. Thompson Twins, the Tubes, all kinds of old stuff here from the Bay Area. Everybody's just saying hi, hi, hi. We got Sim saying hi to Bryant and vice versa. We got
187.
187 in the house saying bang, bang, Niner gang. He was getting after me on the timeline the other day. Pretty
Mm,
good. I hope all is well. He had a picture of him and Tom Grossi. I think it was up in Seattle at
mm,
Lumen Field, and I liked it and said BBNG, like this. And then like the whole day he was on me, and I was like, man, what did I
really?
do wrong? I think it's just he likes Purdy, and
Yeah.
a lot of people feel like I hate Purdy, but I mean I have to say it, I like Purdy a lot.
Yeah.
Um, I just feel like we're going to need more than he can give us, whether it's this
Totally.
year or soon. I just that's what I think, and I'm not saying Lance can give it to us either, but I do think we need to find out. I would like
Yeah.
to see an open and fair competition and see who our best option is this year
Yeah.
because Purdy was our best option in 2022. I'll say that, but he's
He
been
was.
injured, and he may not be the same, and our team's not the same. Let's be honest. We don't have, as much as McGlinchey was maligned at right tackle. I'm not willing to say that McKivitz is as good, or certainly I won't say that he's better. I think he's maybe better at pass blocking, but overall as a right tackle, I think I'd still rather have McGlinchey than
Hmm.
McKivitz.
Yeah. I was.
And
Mm.
go ahead. No,
Oh
go
no,
ahead. I won't
no. I was
cut
gonna
you off.
say 187. Like I see him going back and forth all the time too. People on the timeline, and one day he got invited into the spaces that Roscoe always hosts in the morning, and he came on and pretty much said why he's a Brock Purdy fan, which made sense, but he's not a Lance hater. So I gave him his respect, and I was like, hey, I appreciate you coming on, and because a lot of these clowns don't like to come on who you always see, talking about, you know who I'm talking about, the it
Oh yeah,
factor, Socrates,
yeah.
all these other guys won't like
Who
don't like to
changed his
come
name
on.
to Plato, the fraudulent
Yeah.
philosopher? I
Yeah.
call him
Yeah. Yeah. These guys don't like to come
Clave.
on. Yeah. They don't like to
Uh,
come on and talk their stuff. But 187 went on there.
yeah.
He gave his reasonings, and I can respect that. Um, but yeah, you're right, Ted. It's sad that we're in a situation where, and I feel like it's only the quarterback situation. Like we can sit here and and say we've said this numerous times. I've heard you say it numerous times, and I feel the same way as you do. We're all we're just because we prefer Trey Lance doesn't mean we hate Brock Purdy. If Brock Purdy was 100% healthy, he deserved the right to start week 1. I totally believe it. You don't tell somebody, hey, even if we lost to the Eagles, he did an excellent job. You sit there and you tell him, you know what, we like the way you operated the offense. We're gonna get you start to week 1. But at the same time, that's not the case right now. The case is he's hurt. So is he the best quarterback right now? We can't say that right now. We can't say he's the best. We don't even know where his injury status is. So the fact that I said, we sit there and we say we want to see Trey Lance come in if Brock Purdy ain't healthy. That's not a knock on Brock. Everybody, I feel like a lot of people who support Brock pretty heavy just want him to start week 1 no matter what. Like he's gonna start. Like they keep saying the same thing because they want it to happen so much. Which I mean, I get it. He played great, but we have to take into consideration. People say, "Oh, you're just hating on Brock." No, he came into a situation where we were already a well-oiled machine. Even Jimmy was playing well. He was 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in. We're on a win streak already. The offense was already well oiled. Brock Purdy came into a situation where everybody was working on all cylinders. CMC was in his bag. Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, like we were all. Kyle Shanahan was in his bag with the play calling. He came in and did what he was supposed to do as a backup quarterback. And yes, he elevated the team to what Jimmy did. So I get it. But will we be having the same conversation? Because we always know Kyle's offense starts off so slow in the beginning of the season. So I don't think that if Brock Purdy started week 1, we would have had this. We would be having this conversation. So, like I said, I'm not sitting here saying that he can't do the job. He can't put us over the top. But when it comes down to it, I've said this on our show, and I'm gonna say it on Ted's show. We all want to see who the best quarterback play, and if Trey Lance is gets a fair opportunity and he goes into week 1 with a healthy set of weapons, and we don't have the. I hope this is the year we don't start slow because we start slow every single year. Because you know what's going to happen, Ted? If Trey has to start week 1, we start off slow, we lose to Pittsburgh. It's going to be all Trey. See, this is what happens, Trey, when he starts, blah blah blah, and it's like, man, we always start slow. I don't understand why Kyle doesn't get the blame for that. Like nobody is above reproach. You can say that Kyle starts off slow. So it's always what since he's been here, we started off slow every year except for 2019. Am I correct?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
don't
No, the
start.
offense does.
We don't.
Even
Yeah,
2019, we
2019.
started 8-0,
Yeah,
but that was all defense,
yeah. It was all
almost all
defense.
defense. The offense was so slow that we traded for Sanders,
Yeah,
Emmanuel
exactly.
Sanders,
That's
a
true. That's
second and
true.
a third pick, and got a
Yeah.
fourth back from the Denver Broncos because the offense was so sluggish in
So
those
it's
first 8 games.
exactly. That's an
So
excellent point
yeah,
too. Yeah. So yeah. So
absolutely.
my thing is, I'm with you, Ted. Like I think Brock Purdy, can he get it done? It's yet to be seen. Can Trey Lance get it done? It is yet to be seen. I'm not picking a side either way. I want the best quarterback. However, I will say this: Trey just gives us more. And I've sit there and I said this: Trey can learn to do what Brock Purdy does good, but Brock Purdy can't learn to do what Trey does good. He can't.
Exactly. He's
He
not going to
can't just
learn to be
automatically.
6'4" and grow a
Yeah,
cannon of an arm. It's just not going to
exactly.
happen.
If Trey gets a fair opportunity and he gets the quick plays down, the intermediate rounds, the quick, what Kyle likes to do, then I feel like Trey can take this offense to another level because he has a different element of, if you want to call it yak, people don't like to call it the dink and dunk, but pretty much if you're throwing under 10, 15, under 10 yards, that's dink and dunk. So if you throw 8-yard pass to CMC and he takes it 80 yards, that's, you're depending on Yak and Kyle's offense. But then when defenses take away that, Trey has the element to beat you deep. And Brock Purdy just doesn't have that. So what I'm saying in saying that, come playoff time, if we're down 2 scores with 5 minutes left, you can't depend on Yak because they're going to say, oh, 49ers, this is what they like to do. They like to throw, you know, a 10-yard slant to George Kittle, and hopefully he takes it 70 yards. Debo takes 70 yards. They're going to take that away. So if you have 5 minutes in the game down 2 scores, you can't depend on that because that's going to eat up so much clock. Trey can give you that quick strike ability to hit you with an 80-yard pass and score within a minute and get you back in the game quickly. That's all I want. That's all I want to see from a quarterback who can run every play and every element of Kyle Shanahan's offense. Like I said,
No
there's
doubt
no
about
knock
it.
on Purdy. No knock on Purdy. I just think that Trey just gives you more, but I just think he needs a fair shot. And I'm hoping that, if Brock is not healthy and he's not healthy to play, I just hope that Kyle Shanahan goes into his bag week one against Pittsburgh, gives him the same opportunity and give him the same type of play calling. Don't use him as a running back. Same type of play calling with these healthy weapons. I totally believe that Trey will not give the job back if he starts off fast and he takes us to another level.
No doubt about it. Now, those are all great points. Just want to call out Twin Empire in the house. He's had some comments here. Sim has one we'll get back to there. Sim, I saw earlier you asked a question. We'll come back to that in just a minute. But yeah, with Trey Lance, here's the thing, folks. He can throw deep, and so he forces a safety to stay back out of the box, a second safety. So you don't see those single high looks that we see a lot versus Purdy. And then of the defenders that are in the box, there's one less in the box, and then one of them has to spy Lance because he has a great top speed. So he can beat you deep with his arm. He can beat you deep with his legs. Purdy is quicker. I love Purdy's quickness. But man, once Purdy takes a couple steps, people are chasing him down from behind. So he doesn't have any long runs, and I don't expect him to have a lot of long runs in this league. There's just too much speed on defense. So basically, you're taking two guys out of the defense that will help to keep you from getting behind too, help you possess the ball longer, help you to run the ball better, help you to get more yak, again, to keep you from getting behind at the end of the game anyway. But if you do need to catch up at the end of the game, yeah, Lance has that deep threat ability. And even if you don't throw the deep threat a lot, just the threat of it causes the defense has to account for it, and it puts them into conflict, and it takes their attention away from what you really want to do, which is the short and intermediate stuff, the dink and dunk, the runs, and tear them to shreds that way for sure. Um, so yeah, I mean, so I love what Purdy did last year. I hope he can be the same this year. But our team isn't the same this year. And another thing I got to worry about besides right tackle is right guard. I mean, Burford supposedly is rocked up. He looks better than last year. That's great. But if you remember last year, he platooned with Daniel Brunskill at right guard, and Brunskill is gone. So yeah, maybe Feliciano can do that if we need it. But yeah, I think that's reasonable to say, but it's not a lock. There's no way you can say that Feliciano is going to jump in if we need him and be as good as Brunskill was. So, that's a concern. I'm not saying it will be an issue, but it's something to keep an eye on as to why, things may not be the same in 2023 as they were in 2022 for us. Also, one thing I've been bringing up is, and see what you think about this, Teran, is that in 2023, going into the playoffs, I'd say we're almost certain not to be as healthy as we were going into the 2022 playoffs. I would say in 2022, the only guy we were missing, other than quarterbacks, was Emmanuel Mosley. And Diamador Lenore was playing great ball going into the playoffs. He was maybe the better quarterback than Charvarius Ward in the playoffs. And all those QBs we're missing don't mean a thing if Purdy's your best QB and he stays healthy, right? You don't miss them at all. So the chances of us being more healthy or the same in 2023 playoffs, I think, is very unlikely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As far as that right side of the line, I'm a huge fan of Spencer Burford, and I still believe. And I'm not there during practice. I'm not there, seeing him in person, what he can do. But I saw him play in college, and I still think his best fit is at right tackle. I just, he played right tackle majority of his time in college, and I just like to see him there with Feliciano at right guard. But I agree. I don't know what I'm going to see from Colton McKivitz. He hasn't really shown me anything. I mean, well, I'll take that back. That what was it, week 17 when he had to play against the Rams when Trent Williams was hurt. He played well. Like I remember him playing pretty well and stuff like that. But I still haven't seen enough of him where he can take on a full season, of being able to play right tackle. They obviously see enough in him. Last year I was worried about the offensive line because I until last year I didn't see us and our offensive line staff um really groom any offensive lineman. Like everybody we got was either through a trade or through a free agency. Trent Williams trade, Weston Richburg trade. Who was the center? Alex Mack. We got him for free agency. You know what I mean? Like it was just I was always worried. But last year, the way that Aaron Banks played, the way that Spencer Burford played, now I'm going to shut up about our offensive line coach and how he grooms people. But I I mean, there is a concern on the right side, but like Symmetry said, Burford's so athletic. I can see him playing right tackle. And John Feliciano, he's a vet who started a full season for the Giants last year and even went into the playoffs with them. So I feel like Spencer Burford on the right tackle and Feliciano would give us our best bet at offensive line if that's how we want to take it. But yeah, I don't know. Like you said, with on the defensive side, we're only missing Emmanuel Mosley. I feel like Deommodore Lenoir, he's probably going to take another step. I think our offense. I mean, sorry, our defense could be better this year, especially with Javon Hargrave. Because I was telling people before, like when this defense has been great, but I feel like we were at our best when we had DeForest Buckner inside. He's now our DeForest Buckner, which is going to create double teams on Hargrave and still Bosa, which is going to free up Armstead and Drake Jackson, which now, and you all, everybody on here who's played football and watches football knows your secondary is only really as good as your pass rush. I feel like that defensive line is going to eat this year. So I feel like our defense is going to take a step up. I feel like by week 5, Jair Brown's going to take over that free safety spot. I just feel like he's coming. I've said this before, and I think I saw Collie Young on here. I'm not saying he's going to be that guy, but to me, Jair Brown, because he doesn't have the top end speed and he's a little undersized, but he has such a high IQ. He reminds me kind of a honey badger because he can line up at free, he can line up at strong, he lines up on the line of scrimmage, he can blitz, he tackles extremely well. So if you give me a mixture of him and like a Buda Baker type player, we got an excellent free safety and safety tandem going forward, for both spots. So yeah, I think what it comes down to is going to come, Brendo is now going to be coming into his second year as a starter. So I think he's going to take another step up in our offense. Debo's probably gonna be in shape. You know what I'm saying? Because we've had that conversation. So yeah, I think this team has actually gotten better. The only issue we have, obviously, right now is who's going to be playing the quarterback position.
Yeah, and along those lines, there were some interesting comments here. Twin Empire was saying, just look at the people who cover the Niners. There was no grace or positive thoughts for Trey at all. It would have been Brock. That's cool, but it's crazy amount of negative and lack of confidence. It's kind of interesting because there's all these reports out there by national reporters about how Darnold has the edge. But really, all the guys who were there at OTAs and minicamp for all the practices that were open to reporters were all saying that there was no edge for Darnold. In fact, most of them said a slight edge for Trey Lance over Sam Darnold. So I take issue with a lot of these national guys. I take issue with Matt Miyoko. I take issue with Greg Papa. I think a lot of them have spoken. A lot of them are chasing clicks. I'm going to be honest. I've said it.
Yeah,
I put it out there. I got mocked by Larry Krueger for saying it. But, everybody is out there trying to get clicks who's serious in this industry. And my point is, like, how far are you willing to go to get it? Are you willing to sacrifice your self-respect, your dignity? Are you willing to lie to get clicks? because I'm not, and that's where I stake my claim. I don't lie. I have integrity. I don't do hot takes. I don't say things to get people to click that I don't believe. I
Exactly.
may put something in a title because that's like what people are talking about. It doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with it. And you'll hear in the show what my real opinions are. So
Yeah.
um,
I agree with you,
yeah,
Ted. I agree with you. Like, I understand, controversy sells. That's what it comes down to. And the thing that get people going in this 49er community is talk about the quarterback position and go against the grain. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? When you go against the grain, that's what's going to get people excited. People are going to talk about you, whether it's good or bad. It still clicks. And some people, they thrive off that kind of stuff. Well, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to lie. I'm going to make up a story because I want people to read my article. I want people to click on my YouTube channel. I have too much integrity for that. I can sit here all I want, on Mariah and I's channel and talk some foolishness and be like, oh, yeah, Trey Lance is going to be traded. Like, why would I sit there and say that? I want to be a realistic guy. In no way I'm saying I'm gonna report or nothing like that. I only got 500 subs on my channel. I'm not a huge channel, but what I'm saying is if I'm sitting there looking at it and I want to be more mainstream or we want to call, I can sit here and make up a bunch of foolishness as well. But I'm not gonna do that because like you said, I have more dignity. I'm a man of integrity. I'm not gonna sit here and make up some nonsense just because I want you to like my channel. That's crazy to me.
yeah. People know that if they slander Trey Lance, at least half of our fan base is going to engage. They're going to come clicking. They're going to watch. They're going to retweet. They're going to get. It's going to drive engagement. Absolutely. And so people are willing to say untrue things to get those clicks. It's sad. And Sim said if Trey doesn't blow the roof off in camp, Trey will be number 2, and he'll stay the backup until his contract is up. I mean, I think that's could happen. I would just say that none of our 4 QBs has ever played a full season in the
Yeah,
NFL. So if you're betting on any one of the 4 to play the full season, I think I'd say don't bet your rent money. Is what I like
yeah.
to tell people on the timeline.
Trey, I mean, Ted, if it's okay, I want to ask the chat because I'm hearing
Yeah,
so many people talking about, well, Trey has to blow the doors off, blows the doors off. Here's my
yeah,
thing, and so let's just say that Brock Purdy does have to go on short-term IR.
yeah,
He has to play the first 4 games. Let's just say in the first 4 games, he has a total of 13 touchdowns, whether it's on the ground or with his arm, whatever. Total of 13 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. He's playing very good football, but we're 2-2 as our record. Should Brock Purdy get his job back when he's healthy? Because I say no. Because one, we see that we always start off slow, which is just it's been the norm for this team. And if we're losing and because it's not Trey's fault, I don't think any he should get his job taken away just because we're 2-2 and he's playing well. Because I've heard so many, like I've heard people sit on here and say, "Well, Brock Purdy averaged 34 points per game as a starter. If Trey doesn't average that or more, he should be pulled, even if he's undefeated." I go, that's crazy to me. This is what bothers me about the whole situation. People here sitting here saying Brock Purdy can't do nothing to lose his job, but Trey can't do anything to win his job back. That's crazy to me. Like if he goes, you know what I mean? People really have that sentiment. Like, well, I don't care how good Trey does. This is Brock's team. So you mean to tell me if Trey goes out there with 4-0, he only has one turnover and 13 touchdowns. You mean to tell me you would bench him for Brock? That's to me, that's crazy. But see, and I think like Trey's gonna have such a short leash that as soon as Brock's healthy, they're going to be nitpicking everything that Trey does, and he's going to be pulled. And I agree with Sam. I don't think that he'll be traded anytime soon because of our injury history at quarterback. But if Kyle is not going to go in with an open mind, because I truly believe that Kyle wants Lance to be the guy. One, because he's has a little bit of arrogance because he wants it to work. He wants it to be like, I picked Trey. This is my guy. It's the first time he's ever got to pick his quarterback. You know what I'm saying? First time. So he wants it to work. But at the same time, he's in a situation where he has to win. So I get it. But at the same time, if Trey is in there doing his thing, and if Kyle has an open mind to say, look, I'm gonna go with the hot hand, I'm gonna put in the quarterback because I get it. You don't want to play musical chairs with your quarterbacks. Well, Trey won 4 games, but this is Brock's team. Let me go ahead and put this in there. See, like what 187 is saying, QB1 already. But see, here's the thing. So I'm sure 187 has a sentiment of Trey can go in and go 4-0 and blow the doors off and still get pulled. That's not fair. If you're going to do that, keep him for the season and then just trade him when the season's over, because you're doing him a disservice if you're really and truly not going to give him a, a a true opportunity to win his job back. Because if you like him enough in 2022 to say you're my QB1, why wouldn't you have an open mind for him to possibly win his job back if Brock Purdy is hurt or if he's struggling at the same time?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, you mentioned the nitpicking. Just to be honest, that's going to happen with either quarterback that struggles, whether it's Purdy or Lance. The other side is going to be nitpicking. And that's why ultimately, if you ever decide that one is the franchise QB, then you have to trade the other one away at that point, whoever it is. And my big fear is that we trade Lance away and he goes and hits his ceiling on another team, which is much higher than Purdy's ceiling, let's be honest, his potential ceiling. And, then Kyle's never going to live that down. And we as fans are never going to hear the end of it. I think that might be the more important side of that. And with good reason. Like, you had a number 3 overall pick, this guy with all these traits, and you let him walk and he turned into a real deal franchise QB for someone else. Like, that is a flaming indictment to go along with passing on Mahomes, saying no to Brady for Jimmy G, not getting Stafford. How many Super Bowls have we lost because of not getting QBs that were readily available to us? It's a lot. I'm not going to put a number on it, but it's more than 2. It's wild to me. And it's wild to me that these national media folks are running with this stuff and saying that Trey Lance has no trade value. Nothing could be further from the truth. We said we're taking calls. We're just not making calls back before the draft. And ultimately, that means that nobody was offering what we think Trey Lance is worth. Probably because Kyle knows exactly what I was saying was true. And the last thing he wants to do is let Trey Lance walk, buy super high, sell super low, have him walk, reach his ceiling on another team, and look like a complete fool for having him in your grasp and letting him walk out of your building for a cheap price. I mean, I can't imagine a worse scenario than that, honestly.
Yeah, I totally agree. If the offense looks different, Sim, the team and fans will scream for what they know. It's 8-0.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Purdy went 8-0, but he did have the best group of weapons in the NFL. I don't know if you saw, but ESPN just said we have the best group of weapons in the NFL. I've been saying it since week 8, since we got CMC, that was after the Rams. That was a week after the Chiefs, but and we have the number 1 D. We have Kyle, and we had a solid offensive line. So if QB wins were misleading for Jimmy G, which they definitely misled a lot of people, including myself, for a long time, then they can be misleading for any quarterback, and that includes Brock Purdy. I think Purdy is a little bit better than Jimmy G, but I don't think it's as big a difference as a lot of people want to say. Somebody was saying earlier that our defense doesn't force turnovers, but with Purdy, we forced 2.4 turnovers a game against our opponents. Our defense did. With Jimmy, they only forced 1.2. So of that 7-point difference in scoring, a lot of that gets eaten up by 1.2 turnovers per game. I'd say at least 3 or 4 points of it goes away with that. So, ultimately, I'm really happy with what Purdy did, but let's not get wrapped up in QB wins, because they're a stat. They mean something. They just don't mean everything. If they meant everything, it wouldn't explain why Stafford, for 12 years with the Lions, was 0-3 in the playoffs. He comes to a super team on the Rams, goes 4-0 and wins the Super Bowl. Same QB, couldn't be more dramatically different results in the playoffs. 0-3 versus 4-0 Super Bowl champ. That paints the picture so vividly to me right there of why it matters. There's a reason why Pro Football Reference keeps track of QB records. It matters, but it's not everything. And it's not nothing. I'm also going to say it's not a stat, like some people say. I think that's extreme too.
Yeah, but you're right, Ted. No, you're right, Ted. CMC was so underrated as far as, and I get it. Like I said, and I want everybody to understand. Me and Ted like Brock Purdy. Okay, we like Brock Purdy, but you can't take away the fact that CMC brought a different element and elevated this offense completely. Because now you have to worry about every single. I mean, people. I'm not, and this is no disrespect to Elijah Mitchell. Not too many people were scared of him. He doesn't really have a name in the NFL like that. When you bring a CMC who people know you can beat you out of the backfield, can beat you if you lines up at the slot receiver position. The dude is just so dynamic. He opens thing up, and like you said, Ted, and even Twin said in the chat here, Jimmy was even playing well. Like I said, other than that Denver Broncos game, he was playing well. Like he was in his bag too. This is the best I've ever seen him play. The man, when he got hurt, the man was 16 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So he was doing his thing. So it's just like I said, it's just and I agree with Sam. He made a comment earlier about Trey Lance. It's just been and the events for Trey just been unfortunate. Like he started 4 games, and all those 4 games, he only had George Kittle for one of them. He's never had a collective full group of weapons anytime he started his NFL football game. He hasn't. You know what I mean? And it's just unfortunate. And he's never really went through. He's never had a chance to go back to back starts and play 2 full games to get into a rhythm. People say, "Well, Brock Purdy came in immediately." I get it. Like he came in because, like I said when we started the show, he came into a well-oiled machine. We were
And
clicking.
Purdy had a lot more
A lot more.
experience in
Yeah,
college. He had
yeah,
48 college starts compared to
yeah,
17. Brock Purdy was Division One. Trey Lance was Division One Double A. 17 starts and not within a season of him coming to. It was 2 seasons before getting his start in the pros. So there were 2 years off, basically one game, the last year in college, and 2 games, maybe two and a half, you could say, his first year
yeah.
as a rookie with the Niners. Twin Empire says facts, Ted, but folks will say it's all the QB. This is the QB wins thing. Jimmy was looking good too. Let's be honest. CMC is like adding Katie, yeah, or Steph. Like he adds gravity, like where everybody, the eyes are all on him, the people are close to him, and then it takes people away from all our other weapons and the eyes off our other weapons, which opens them up to be open, to get more yak, to get more long plays, TDs, all that because of CMC. He is an absolute difference maker. He was also voted the number one running back this week. No
Saw that.
surprise there. He's not the best runner, but when you factor in his receiving abilities, he's the best overall running back in the NFL. And it's really not that close, at least as of 2022. He crushed
Oh,
it. So people are saying, what's up? People, let's see. Sim was saying the problem is you don't play much preseason, and knowing how fragile the position is, Trey may not be given enough snaps to win the job. Yeah, it'd be really
yeah,
hard for Lance to win the job in preseason against Purdy, who went 6-0 in the playoffs, 2-0 or 6-0 in the regular season. I mean, it technically is 5 starts, but come on, Jimmy only played one series against the Dolphins. So, I mean, I count
yeah.
that as a win for Purdy. I count 6-0 in the regular season, 2-0 in the playoffs, and he never lost a game that he finished. So, yeah,
hmm
almost impossible for Trey to do that, in the preseason. Now you give Trey 2, 3, 4 games in the regular season. And if he's playing well, you don't take a QB out that's playing well, even if it doesn't look as good as Purdy looked last year. We don't know that Purdy's as good in 2023 as he was in 2022. That elbow could not be physically fit. His mentals could not be right, whether it's trusting himself to rip it hard, whether it's, getting in sync with our weapons, or whether it's standing in the pocket to take those hits. All those things could be off with Purdy. Would never root for that. I want the strongest QB room possible. I want all our
Yep.
QBs healthy as soon as possible and ready to play as soon as possible. But at the same time, I want Lance to get some experience because I think that gives us the best chance of having the best QB room possible for the playoffs.
hmm
My doomsday scenario is Purdy comes in week 1, plays well, we win all season, go to the playoffs. Late in the season or in the playoffs, he goes down, and you're sticking Lance in there, and he's had no more experience other than maybe running the scout team in practice. That is a really bad scenario, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Twin Empire says context matters. Absolutely. I'm a context guy. Stats can be deceiving. It's all about, why did they happen and how did they happen and what does it mean? That's what context is. It's super important to consider along with raw stats.
Well, Terror Dome, if he gets better, then so be it. Then he's the best quarterback on this team going forward, and we're just gonna have to be happy with that. We're not saying it's funny how you guys think that we're hating on Brock Purdy. We're not saying he's gonna get worse. We're just saying we don't know what 2023 Brock Purdy is coming off of injury. If he's healthy, if he never got that injury, he's QB1 week 1. Absolutely. You don't bench a guy even if he lost to the Eagles, you don't bench a guy that played that well, averaging and helping the team get to 34 points a game. We're not saying that. We're just saying he hasn't been able to physically, like he hasn't even got hit yet or anything. We don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, he's throwing a football. That's great. He's not being hit. He's probably not even being able to lift weights to the full capacity. That's all we're saying. He could get better and he could come in week one and start destroying the NFL again. Then you know what? Sorry for Trey Lance. You're either a backup, accept it, or if you want to be traded, we'll look for that in the offseason. But right now, we're just talking about we just don't know what Brock Purdy is right now. So to sit there and say like, oh well, you know, Trey shouldn't be able to get his job back to me is crazy because to me you play the best quarterback, right? That's our goal. So if Trey comes in week one and he's killing it, and and to me he don't have to average 34 points a game. It depends on how good he looks. He don't have to go
No,
after if we're averaging 27 a game and he's 4-0 and we're killing it, then you don't bench him, in my opinion. You don't sit there and say, well, okay, Brock Purdy's healthy again. Let's go ahead and put this man back in because he's QB1, even though we're 4-0 with Trey. That's crazy to me.
yeah, Teran, it's funny that you mentioned 27 points a game. Somebody came at me on the timeline and said, well, what if Lance comes in and he's scoring 27 points a game? I said, it doesn't matter. If we're winning, that's all that matters. Well, that's not all that matters. But ultimately, Purdy, yeah, he put up 33 points per game. But like I said, we were getting 2.4 turnovers by our defense per game. We played some bad and or banged up defenses when Purdy was in there. And, like 27 points against the Cowboys. Hey, that's 8 more points than Purdy scored against the Cowboys, right? So
Yeah.
context matters. It depends on, also if you're possessing the ball a lot, giving your defense time to rest, if you're driving the ball far down the field and making long fields for their offense to cover, these are all things you got to consider in addition to the points scored. Points scored are great. You got to have them to win the game, but there's a lot of other things that go into a performance being good or great than just the amount of points scored.
Yeah.
And so I don't think you can just say Lance scored 27 in 2023. That's worse than Purdy scoring 33 in 2022. Yeah. Things could be different. Anyone could be in a slump. People could get injured. Our O-line is a question mark. We'll see what happens. Debo obviously had an off year in 2022. What if CMC is injured or has an off year in 2023? There's so many things. So it's more nuanced and complicated. Also, just want to shout out Melissa Rebel, Izzy in the house, coming to us from the East Coast. I know they're having a lot of terrible weather out there. My wife is out there in New Jersey right now visiting her office in New York City. And, she had terrible trouble on Sunday flying into Newark. There was lightning storms all over Newark and they got diverted to Philly. She ended up taking an Uber from Philly to New Jersey. And it sounds like it's been like 6,500 flights canceled on the Eastern Seaboard in the last day or two. So shout out to everyone on the East Coast. Sim or somebody was just mentioning that they had a flooded basement. I'm sorry that the chat's popping, so I'm probably not going to be able to get back to every. Yeah, here we go. Sim was saying terrible rain, basement flood, still working on it. Best thoughts to everybody on the East Coast going through all that, and we hope you dry out soon and dry out basements and all that stuff, and hopefully no one gets hurt or worse. And obviously property can be replaced. So
yeah, exactly.
So we got Twin Empire saying, let's go over the tape against Dallas, Terradome. See, there you go. Like I said, he kind of stole that. Maybe he might have said it before I said it, but I didn't see it till just now.
Yeah.
But that argument came up on the timeline. It's like 27 points could be great if our defense is holding teams to 13 or 10. We're winning. It's more about how much we win by than how much we score to me. Because ultimately at some point you're just guarding a lead and you're not really trying to score anymore. You're just trying to drain the clock. Right. So again, these things, you got to always look at the context. All right, let's see here. Terradome saying Jimmy had 9 years, sat behind the GOAT, at all the same weapons as still Brock 33. Yeah. So we talked about that, Terradome. Brock had 2.4 turnovers forced by his defense, while Jimmy only had 1.2. So that's a 1.2 turnover delta per game. And Brock played some bad and banged up defenses. So that can account for some of the rest. I still think Purdy is better overall than Jimmy.
Oh,
and
sure.
and he's cheaper. I mean, incredibly cheaper, like 22, 23 times cheaper, and obviously younger too. So there's a lot to like with Purdy. But I'm not going to sit here and say he was a lot better than Jimmy G in 2022. They were a lot more similar than a lot of people would like to. Did you watch that Alex Rollins video, Taryn,
Yeah, I
where
did.
he said they're the same guy? I mean, I disagree that they're the same guy, but
No, they're not
I
the
think it's
same guy.
closer than you might want to think. He had a lot of good points in that video, I would say, that I agreed with.
Yeah. Terradome, he
Alex,
made a comment saying that he made a comment earlier saying that, well, can't Brock Purdy get better, after injury? Yes, he can. But to sit there and say, he said Burrow tore ACL and MCL rookie year, got better. Absolutely, he did. We're talking about two different injuries, though. You can't compare an ACL tear for a UCL tear on a throwing arm. That's totally different things, man.
there you go. Yeah, and somebody was mentioning, Melissa was saying that Lance only had Kittle for basically one game, and someone was saying we've never had a receiving running back like CMC with Kyle. And it reminds me a little bit of Roger Craig when Bill Walsh said basically like, yeah, we had Jerry, we had John Taylor, we had Brent Jones, but it didn't really come together until we had Roger Craig was really the key to Rebecca, the key to unleashing the full potential of the West Coast offense that Bill Walsh put together. He said Roger Craig was the piece, and then obviously Ricky Waters after him, another incredible receiving back, right? Ricky Running Waters. 187 says best thing Trey can do is work on his release and just be ready in case. Well, I mean, again, you're assuming that Purdy's ready for week one, man. That's a big assumption. All they're saying is we hope, we're hopeful. No one is saying Purdy is ready for week one. Anybody saying that, least of all Purdy. That's who I'm going to listen to. I don't care what Kyle says. I don't care what Lynch says. I don't care what Schefter says or any of these national guys who are constantly wrong about us anyway. When Purdy says he's going to be ready for week one, that's when I'll believe it because he's not going to let anybody rush him back. Also, Debo was on Weight Watchers the first 5 weeks. Yeah, put down the cheeseburger, Debo. Put down the Krispy Kremes. Terradome and those college starts really play a factor how people want to overlook it. 4-year starter matters. Absolutely, it does.
Absolutely it does.
Absolutely. It's a huge difference. And that's why I keep saying Lance just needs experience. And hopefully we can get him some here. We need to find out what he is before we trade him away. If we ultimately end up doing it, I think trading him now would be a huge mistake. But what if Purdy gets better? All the QBs tend to. Then what? No, I'm not saying Purdy can't get better. I think he probably will get a little better. I think he'll get better synchronization with our weapon, better footwork, not bail out back left every time there's pressure from the right. Maybe he'll learn to step up in the pocket more. But I just don't think there's that much difference between what he was, what he can be. And I think a lot of it might be negated by defensive coordinators getting film on him. So he may get better and DCs may learn better how to defend him, and it may just kind of end up being about the same. I just don't see him making a quantum leap. How do you feel about that, Taryn?
I kind of already answered it, but yeah, I mean, I hope everything works out for the best. You know what I mean? I just hope that he's not rush back in desperation because you feel like you need to get these wins early. I'm not saying that John Lynch and Kyle are stupid and they're gonna do it. I'm just saying I just feel like there's a seems like, and maybe it's just from the fans for the most part. There's so much of a, well, he needs to play week one if we want to win games early, and like people already have given up on Trey Lance, and he's only had 3 starts, which is crazy to me. You know what I mean? Well, you want to say 3.5 because that Seattle game, he got hurt so early. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's crazy to me. Yeah, right now, Brock Purdy, he has the advantage if he's healthy. We've been saying this the whole show. Like, you just don't bench a guy. I'm just worried about. I mean, unless he has some recovery where he's like has a stronger arm when he's like the rookie of the year when he broke his arm and then he can throw a baseball 100 miles an hour. Like, if he gets his arm stronger because of it, then that's awesome as well. You know, I understand Terror Dome. You're a Purdy guy. We're not. It's all good. You don't have to keep repeating stuff. It's all good. We know you like Purdy. We're just telling you that we're just concerned that Yes, it's a shoulda, coulda, woulda thing. Could he be healthy? Could he be healthier than 2022? Yes, but he could also be worse as well. We don't know. All we're
Yeah,
saying is, I think our main point is this: if he's not healthy, Trey Lance has to start. Give Trey Lance the same. Give Trey Lance the same. How can I say that? Have an open mind that Trey
the
can keep
same
his job.
situation for Lance against Darnold as we had Lance against Jimmy G, which is
Yeah,
we want to see what he's got.
yeah, and let him.
And
Yeah,
Darnold, like Melissa had this great point. She said, "Doomsday is Darnold in the playoffs." I fear that because I said Doomsday
yeah,
was Lance coming in unprepared. You're right. Darnold is much more Doomsday than Lance. In the
yeah,
playoffs, I'll
yeah,
never believe that Darnold is the better option than Trey Lance.
yeah.
Uh,
I think the main thing I want to say is this: if if Trey has to start, and if he has to start 4 games, and let's just say he plays exceptionally well, you don't bench the guy. That's all I'm saying. Have an open mind that he can win his job back. Because, like I said, I don't think that is right, and I know NFL is not fair. I get it, but if you want to sit there and say, "Well, I haven't seen Brock Purdy, in the NFL game since January," I want to put him in, even though Trey Lance is 4-0 or 3-1, and he's playing excellent football. But Brock's QB1, so let's go ahead. It's not like we're talking about Aaron Rodgers here or Patrick Mahomes, somebody who's went out there and proven it year in and year out. We're talking about somebody who's won six to 8 games. Okay, so to sit here and crown him already, to me, it's crazy. Is he
well,
QB one
Twin
right now?
Empire,
Huh? Yeah, if he's QB
Twin
one right
Empire has
now,
a
yes.
great one.
Mhm.
He
The
said, but to
master.
say that Purdy's mastered the offense is a freaking stretch.
Yeah,
It
it
is.
is. It is a stretch.
He's
So like,
he's
yeah, that's all I'm saying, man. If you want to sit there and say Brock Purdy's QB1, I'm with that. If he's healthy, I'm with it. But don't sit there and have a closed mind and said, "Oh well, this is Brock's team, and no matter how Trey is playing, you bench him for Brock Purdy." Because I disagree with you that fully. If he starts week 1, if he sucks, I'll shut up about it. If he goes in and we start off 0-4 and Trey is terrible, I'll shut up and be like, yep, it's Brock Purdy's team. Go ahead and give it to him. Keep Trey on the bench. Let him be the backup for the season and then see what you can explore in 2024. But right now, I'm not crowning anybody as our franchise quarterback. So if Trey Lance
absolutely
comes
not.
in, he's playing well in 3 to 4 games. If he has to start, he should have the right to win his job back, just like he got the chance to get his job taken away from him.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can't say Lance is a bust after less than 5 starts. You can't say Purdy is a franchise QB after only 8 starts. We need to see more from both to make an informed decision. Uh, Izzy is saying people coming at Ted are cray cray, seeing him dish back and stump them. She's talking about on the timeline. Yeah, there's some nutty nut people lying, lie. The Trey Lance haters. The stuff they say is crazy and untrue, and I'm going to call them out every time. And so be it. Um, so there was some
This
other stuff too.
that's so funny. I'm
Sim
laughing at
said this
Terador's
kind of
comment.
reminds me of the situation between Drew Brees and Philip Rivers. I can see a little bit of that, but Brees had a much bigger arm than Brock Purdy, and he was also better in the pocket. So could Purdy be Brees someday? I guess. Maybe a weaker arm version, or maybe his arm strength does improve. That's just another reason why we might want to let Purdy take some more games off and let Trey Lance play. As the longer he rehabs, the more likely that he can actually strengthen that arm and come back, at 100% of what he was in 22, or maybe 110% or 120% or more. Like increase that arm strength so it's not a liability anymore. It's not a limitation like it has been. So we'll see. 187 says Kill and Purdy. They want to continue the momentum. Yeah, the locker room, they just want to
Yeah,
win. If they
sure.
think Purdy is going to give them the best chance, then they're going to back Purdy. I don't blame them. But if Lance comes in and wins a few games, that they might start backing him. Also, we talked about someone earlier talked about that there wasn't really a competition last year, and I think that's why Lance wants a competition this year. He wants to earn the job fair and square. He doesn't want any of that narrative going around. But the other thing is, if he wins the competition and earns the QB1 job, then he has a chance to win back the locker room that way too. Locker room might say, "Hey, yeah, we saw Lance played, and I never saw Purdy make throws like that, or long runs or whatever he does that would inspire them." So I think that's part of the reason why Lance wants a fair competition, is to have his chance to win the locker room back. that he maybe never really won in the first place. I'll go out and say that. Cowboys team were the number 3 team in sacks. They had all pro and had an all pro fullback. They did. I didn't know that they even had a fullback. Kyle found his guy in a roundabout way. I'll say so, Mr.
Yeah,
Irrelevant. Yeah, no, I
possibly.
mean
Yeah.
Purdy looks good. He's a great story. The thing is, now this year he's not a rookie anymore. None of that stuff matters. He's just another QB coming off a serious injury and one to his throwing arm. So, a lot of those narratives are gone now. Now we got to compare him not to rookies, but we got to compare him to every other, all the top QBs. You want to call him a franchise QB? Compare him to franchise QBs. Because you put those franchise QBs in our system, I think at least 10 of them, at least 10, maybe 12, are doing better than Purdy did in our system with the number one group of weapons, a solid O-line, Kyle and the number one defense. And you say defense and offense don't matter, but we just said more turnovers generated by the D makes you score more points. And when you have a great defense, then you don't have to take as many chances, knowing that your defense can bail you out if you have to punt. So it changes things. So yeah, I've been talking too much, Teran. So
No, you're fine.
fill me in here.
I'm just laughing at Terradome's comment when he said that Brock Purdy had a better rookie season than Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning. Okay, yeah, he had an excellent 6-game stretch. But if you're really going to sit there and try to compare those two, compare them to Brock Purdy. That's some foolishness, because I think Nick Mullins, what is he? He has the most passing yards in the first 12 games of his career. He's up there with like Andrew Luck and all this stuff. I forgot what it was. You know what I'm talking about, right? With Nick Mullins, he's like top 3 for most passing yards in first 12 games. So that means nothing to me. So we're not going to sit here and act like you know Peyton Manning went to the worst team in football. Brock Purdy came into a team with the best weapons. Period. And I get it, 7th-round pick to a first-round pick, but don't act like he that's crazy to me. I don't know. It's just that's so funny. Yes, he had a great rookie season, but yes, Nick Mullins, he was a rookie.
There's a lot of narratives going on in here. Check this one out. Brock Purdy was 0 practice reps. That's in for Jimmy G. Whole team plays better. That's not hyperbole. Yeah, it is. Brock Purdy had second team reps from the minute Trey Lance went down. He was the backup QB. He got all the second team reps. He didn't have probably a lot of first team reps. But, he had a full offseason with us before the season started. And, he played in preseason games. So to say, 0 practice reps, I think is hyperbole. That's being a little unrealistic with it. Then Teradome was talking about the Bucks D. Twin Empire said, let's go over the Bucks season 2. He said the Bucks barely made the playoffs. Yeah, they only made it because they're in the NFC South, and they stunk. I think they were 9-8 or 8-9 to make the playoffs, barely a winning record. And Teradome said they had a top 10 D. Yeah, they did for the season, but when they played us, it wasn't a top 10 D. They were missing both safeties, Sean Murphy-Bunting, who's one of their top 3 corners, and then Vita Vea went down early in the game, who's arguably one of the best defensive tackles in the league.
Yeah.
When you're number 10 for the year and you lose all those guys, you ain't top 10 no mo. Maybe not even top 15. Let's be honest. So yeah,
Terradome. If you just want to be right,
narrative.
I feel like Terradome just wants to be right. If you're right, and if Brock Purdy is the man, and he ends up being our franchise quarterback to fill your ego, I'll tell you, you're right, and I was wrong about Trey Lance. Okay, because I mean, all this going back and forth of, well, yeah, he did this, he did that. It's a small sample size, so we don't know. So if you're right, I'll give you I'll go on the timeline and say, Terradome, you were correct. Brock Purdy is the franchise quarterback, if that makes you feel better.
Says Jimmy G could only muster 13 versus the Saints. So what y'all saying? Yeah, Jimmy G, he threw a bunch of interceptions and fumbled the ball, I think. It was a bad game. The Saints D was super underrated going into that game because they had been missing both their defensive ends, who are both not only great pass rushers, but great against the run. Davenport and Cam Jordan were both just back, and so was their nickel corner just back for that game. So we saw a Saints defense that none of the teams that played them recently before we did saw. So, and we won 13-3. That's the other thing, Terradome. We almost shut them out. It was like one really long prayer field goal that they made that kept us from shutting them out completely. So again, it's point differential more than overall points should be considered, because once you're up 13-0, then a TD, or whatever, scoring another TD is less important than draining the clock. So again, context, shocking. People are saying hi. I'm going to skip all that. Let's see. The Bucks defense wasn't trash, but it
No, it
wasn't good when we
wasn't.
played them.
It
We
wasn't
played. We
trash.
played. We played. We put up 35 points in less than 3 quarters. Show me another team we did that against. So they were not nearly as good as advertised when we played them due to all those injuries. I dropped a TD. All right. I can't wait for 10 is mentioned all the damn time. Isn't mentioned. Yeah, well, let's hope he passes his physical with the Raiders, because if he doesn't, I can't imagine that Kyle would want to keep Sam Darnold over Jimmy G if Jimmy's available as a free agent again. So the nightmare could continue, unfortunately. We'll see. All right. Sim says any ligament tear is concerning, but thankfully there's a history of guys returning from ligament tears. Sim, the only history of an NFL QB coming back from this is Nick Mullins, and there's no proof that he's really back. He's played one game 1 year later, not 6 months later, and he was bad in that game, and he hasn't played since in an NFL regular season game. So no, there is not plenty of guys returning from UCL ligament tears with a internal brace, repair plus internal brace surgery. It's just Nick Mullins and Brock Purdy, and that's it. The rest are all pitchers, my man. So it's not all the same. It's not plenty of guys. It's 2, and really only 1 that we know of, and we don't really know that much about Nick Mullins. So a lot of mysteries. Roger Craig wasn't there. Nope, neither was Jerry Rice. Neither was a lot of people. John Taylor. Neither was Brent Jones. Neither was Rathman. So yeah, it's a totally different team in '81.
Ronnie Lott wasn't there either, was he?
Ronnie Lott was, yeah. That was the year we drafted Lott.
It was 81. Was a rookie
Carlton
year?
Williamson and Eric Wright. Yeah, it was a crazy DB draft that we just smoked the draft with 3 of the best DBs in the draft. All came to the Niners, starting with Ronnie Lott. Frank Gore sliced up his knees before the draft. Yeah,
Sure
no,
did.
there's plenty of
for both
stories of people
ACLs.
coming back, but that's not a quarterback standing in a pocket. It is different. And yeah, there's plenty of stories of people coming back from these injuries. There's also plenty of ones that didn't.
Yeah.
So
We talked about the Adrian
keep that-
Peterson situation. Remember, we talked about that,
Yeah,
about
he
how
came back
Torres
great.
ACL came back and had 2,000 yards rushing after that. So yeah, we're not saying it can't happen.
No, no doubt. We're not saying it can't. It's just it's a concern. Who are you taking next year, Banks or Burford?
Next level, I think Banks.
Well, I think Banks is already there though, so I'm going to say
Yeah.
Burford, just because I think Banks is mostly to his ceiling. He played really well last year.
I think Banks this year is a surefire Pro Bowler and not an alternate.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, he'll be a Pro Bowler for sure.
Yeah, I think so too,
Yeah.
especially playing next to Trent Williams. Debo was not there for 3 games, but Debo himself came out and admitted that he had a bad season. So
yeah,
I'm not saying we didn't miss him. We did miss him, but not as much as we would have missed like 2021 Debo. Teradome likes to call me the equivocator. It's just context, man. It's facts. But whatever.
Yeah.
Banks is already a top 16 guard in this league. I agree, Sam.
I think top 10 pretty soon here.
I wonder if he went to Texas with Trent again this summer, Melissa. Don't know. Ignore the facts. Okay. Now we just talk about what the facts mean, the stats mean. Keep bringing the fallacy. It is what it is. All right. Melissa says 4 years college and stretch of NFL, proven what Purdy can do in response to those. Seen enough. Trey Lance hasn't had time. The same clutchness to go as Cray. Yeah, you can't write off Lance and you can't crown Purdy. We need to see more from both. Brock still went 4-4 with a 4-for-4 with a torn UCL. Toughness.
He's a tough
No, I
kid.
mean, I
Absolutely.
think he completed some of those passes before he tore his UCL. But yeah, no doubt about it. But he also, I think he averaged something like 4 yards a pass or something. So, or 6. Silly Fungi in the house, Rams fan. He's Team Darnold. I bet he is. I bet all the Rams are Team Darnold. He usually gives us some good dad jokes. So I hope he hits us with some of those. Trey, been here 3 years. How many practices there? Yeah, a lot of practices. That's not the same as nothing's the same as a real live regular season game or playoff game. That's why Purdy's is so impressive. He has two playoff wins. That trumps a lot of regular season wins in my mind for sure. Izzy saying you go. Sim saying I think there's two arguments going on in the Niners fan base. One is that Trey deserves a shot to show himself in camp. By all accounts, that seems to be the case. Yeah, I mean that's what they're telling us, but a lot of people are saying like it's already determined. And Kyle said all along that the competition doesn't begin until training camp, and we don't even have the dates for training camp yet. So anybody saying that Darnold has the edge is they're just trying to poke you and trying to get you to squirm and try to get you upset because they know if you're angry, you'll engage. So don't fall for it. He's a made man already. TL, he game ain't lacking nowhere. He Joe and Tom already turned up. You're right. He won't lose another game or throw 5 minutes. This guy will surprise Pat too.
I'm not sure who he's talking
I
about.
think he's talking about Purdy being better than Pat Mahomes or throw 5 ints like Jimmy did in practice. I don't know. The argument is who people want to start, which really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what we think or nothing. But and I agree with Terradome at a certain point. Even the 187 guy. I don't think there's anything. If Brock Purdy is healthy, I don't think there's anything that Trey Lance can do in preseason training camp or preseason games to overtake what Brock Purdy did in regular season games. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that when Kyle says and there wasn't really no context made because all Kyle said was, "Yeah, I told Trey Lance he has every chance to come in here and have a chance to compete." He didn't say compete to get his job back. He didn't say to compete to be the second string quarterback. All he says is a chance to compete. So we don't know what Kyle has told Trey. For all we know, he can say, "Yeah, if you look good, you can get your starting job back." You know what I mean? So and I know Terradome says that, I'm pretty much like I'm being prideful because I don't want to admit that Brock Purdy's special. I don't think you can say Brock Purdy's special after 8 games. I don't think you can say that about anybody. Just like you can't say that Trey Lance is a bust after 3 starts. Like, I don't know anybody that's gonna say, "Oh, this kid." Like, if you want to think he's special after 8 games, I'm not gonna say your opinion is wrong. I'm just not gonna do it. I just don't want that same mistake we did with Jimmy that he went and we trade for him, he goes 5-0, and then they give him a bag, and then 2 years later they're trying to get rid of him. You know what I'm saying? So
There you go.
If Brock Purdy goes in 2023 and he has an excellent season and he replicates what he did in 2022, then I'll have to talk about this kid as special. I can't say you're special after 8 games. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I don't care who you are.
Nope. We got fooled by Jimmy. Don't get fooled again, folks. I love McNiner. Sammy's sixth sense in the playoffs would be a disaster because he sees ghosts. I'm going to steal that, David. Just warning you right now.
Yeah, he still would have been better than Josh Johnson, though.
There you go. Twin Empire says nobody said Brock ain't QB1. LOL.
Exactly.
I'm saying it. Oh no, I'm saying Brock ain't QB1 right now because he ain't passed his physical. He's not cleared to play. He cannot be QB1 until he's cleared to play. And then, honestly, if we're being honest, it's going to take a while after that till he's synced up and ready to go, and his mentals are ready. So he is not QB1 right now. I will say that, and we don't know when he'll be QB1, and he may not be. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
If he was healthy, you would say
if he was healthy,
right?
If he had not been injured, he would be QB1. Absolutely.
Thank you. And I think that's what Twin is talking about.
There you go. Well, then I agree with that for sure. I'm going to work my way up from the chats here a little bit because I'm so far behind. Well, I just got so far behind. Give me a sec here, folks. Bebop Jones in the house, coming to us from the Philly area. Hopefully you're staying dry, Bebop. I was wishing some dryness on the East Coast. I know you guys are struggling with all the
Yeah.
storms. Um, Terradome says, can't risk 4 games on a science experiment. I need all the wins. Go number 1 seed in January. Yeah, I mean, if playing Lance means you don't get the number 1 seed, then that's probably not the greatest idea. But I'd rather have a lower seed and a better QB room than get the number 1 seed and have the team all banged up and not do well in the playoffs. Number 1 seed doesn't ensure anything other than a bye. And that can lead to rust. There's always a rest versus rust argument. I prefer the number 1 seed, obviously, but I'd rather be hot, healthy, and rested going into the playoffs and have the best QB room possible in case one of them gets injured again, like happened last year. Okay, now I'm catching up here. Kyle already said preseason or camp doesn't matter. It's about real game reps. Purdy earned it.
Yep.
Yeah, if
I
he's
agree.
healthy
We
and
agree
he's
with that.
100%. But, I
you,
think you need
you
a
guys keep bringing.
competition. I think you
Yeah.
need a competition to know that.
You guys keep bringing up points that we already touched on and we agreed with. We agree with that already.
Yeah. Sim disagrees that Purdy had a better arm than that Breeze had a better arm than Purdy. I'm talking about, not at the end, Sim, when he was old and decrepit. I'm talking about peak Drew Brees had a much stronger arm than Purdy. Go watch the film, as Teradome likes to say. And Rich Madrid. Breeze and Rivers did not have playoff wins rookie year. Yeah, whatever. Most great QBs were drafted terrible teams, Terradome. They didn't have the best weapons. They didn't have the number 1 D. They didn't have a solid O-line. They didn't have Kyle. And it's like it's getting to be repetitive, man. The impatience and not risking win now has gotten us 6 championship appearances, no 6th ring. Or Lance don't matter, healthy QB through the regular season and playoffs, much bigger deal. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that actually I'm not totally understanding that, so I'm going to skip it. But if you've got something to say, Taryn, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I do agree with that, but at the same time, like I said, if Brock Purdy is healthy, then you have to go with him. Like I don't think that you're looking at it at an experiment, at that time because you already saw what he can do with live game reps. You know what I'm saying? So I'll say this for like the 10th time. we don't we advocate for whoever is the best quarterback. If Brock Purdy was healthy, never got hurt, he deserves to start week 1. Unfortunately, we don't know what we're getting. He could be better, true, but he could be worse. We don't know what he's going to be because we haven't seen him throw in a live game since January, and he's coming off a serious injury. If he's healthy week 1, you play the man. If he's not, you see what Trey has in him, and because I believe me personally, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to sit here and say this is what's going to happen. I truly believe Brock Purdy is going to start off the season on short-term IR, which I think you have to miss 3 to 4 games, I believe, right?
4 games, yeah.
4 games. So my thing is this: is Brock Purdy? I can't sit here and say he's special right now. So uh, Terror don't thinks he's special. 187 thinks he's special. Fine, that's perfect. You can, nobody has a wrong opinion. I don't think it's a fact though that he's special yet. You can't say that after 8 games. So to me, if you have to start off the season with Trey Lance and he goes 4-0, I think you should have an open mind of him being able to get his starting job back if he's playing as well as Brock Purdy. And I'm not talking about the points per game. I'm talking about hardly no mistakes, no turnovers. He's elevating the offense. We're scoring 28, 29 points a game. I feel like Trey Lance has every right to still compete and get his job back because Brock Purdy hasn't done enough for him to be named a franchise quarterback yet, in my opinion. That's how I feel about it.
There you go. Terradome says, did Jimmy put up 41 in his first playoff game?
Oh,
No, but the Seattle Seahawks had the 25th ranked defense, Terradome. The Vikings, who Jimmy played in his first playoff game, had a very good defense in 2019, not too far behind our defense that was number 2 in the league. So It's just, again, you're comparing apples and oranges, but go for it, man. I love it. Keep going. Sim asks, where do we see Purdy's inability to push the ball? He threw just fine. We saw it in the Raiders game. There were 2 times Purdy rolled left and threw back right against his body, so he couldn't step into it. He floated one to Kittle, intercepted. Floated one to Jennings, PBU. Maybe you could even say dropped interception, but I'll just say PBU to be fair. Both are TDs with a stronger arm quarterback. So don't give me this. He doesn't have a limited arm. Everybody agrees. Like Larry Krueger is like, Purdy does 4 or 5 things to make up for having a limited arm. It's like, yeah, Larry, that means it's a limited arm. It's like unbelievable. He basically had to step into anything he wanted to put zip on or throw deep. And if he didn't step into it, he didn't throw it far. He made some nice off platform throws. I'm not saying he didn't. They just didn't go far. And if you want to throw, with velocity or distance, and he has to step into it to do it. And in some plays, he had to stop to do it. And in some plays, it allowed defenders to catch up, like the Ayuk drop. Cody Barton recovered and got his hand in Ayuk's face. It makes it very difficult to catch if there's a hand between the football and your face, because you only see the football in the last second after it clears the guy's hand. It's very hard to make last second adjustments to it, or microsecond adjustments.
Yeah, I think Purdy has a pretty good arm, from what he gets credit for. I don't know who we were playing. Who were we playing when Purdy threw it about 40 yards in the air, and then it was a touchdown to Kittle, which it could have went to him or Ray McLeod. They were both in position to catch the touchdown, but Kittle snatched it out of the air and got the touchdown. I can't remember what team it was, but he threw a nice ball, stepped up in the pocket, and it was like 40 yards in the air. So he has a better arm than people give him credit for. But like we were saying earlier, I just think I think this team, I think with Purdy, he does have the limitation, because sometimes like Ty Austin was saying, the buck, and we threw it to IU, he had to wait for it a little bit. You know what I mean? So I think when it comes down to it, when it comes to like a playoff team or stuff like that, I just want a situation where if we're down 2 scores, that we have a quarterback that can change the game with one throw and don't depend on Yak. Because like I said, I think our offense is predicated on Yak, and we can't always depend. And yes, we've done great with it, but I don't think you can sit there with the open mind and think that we can win that way all the time. You have to be able to do things outside the box to make you win games. Because like I said, if we're down 2 scores in a playoff game with 5 minutes left, you can't be like, okay, we got the ball in the 25. Let's try to get a quick score, and you're depending on, or let's throw a 10-yard slant to McCaffrey and hoping he gets us 70 yards, hoping Kittle can get Yak 70 yards deep. But we have to make sure, we can have somebody who can change the game in one throw and maybe throw an 80-yard deep route to Ayuk or Danny Gray or something like that. You know what I mean? To change the trajectory of the game in one throw. And no, we're not saying all big arms, because Jeff George, yeah, Jamarcus Russell, I see all that, but those guys aren't, not having a big arm doesn't mean everything. We're saying a quarterback who can do every single thing. Jamarcus Russell had a big arm, but he wasn't accurate. All this other stuff. I mean,
Yeah, boy had no
he looked
heart.
good at LSU with talent. He looked good at LSU with talent because he had like Dwayne Bowe and
He
all
had
these other guys who, yeah.
he had no intentions of trying, watching film, making himself better. He got his big old, guaranteed contract back when rookies could get crazy big contracts, and he's like, I'm retiring. That's it. He never did a lick of work. So Jake Delhomme, the Panthers QB, Bryant Culp, he had a full Tommy John UCL ligament replacement surgery. It is not the same as the UCL repair plus internal brace that Purdy and Nick Mullins had. So different. And then of course Sim's still talking about people that recovered. People recover from injuries, others don't. We don't know. I'm not saying Purdy won't. Just it's a concern that he might not. You cannot have a major injury and say there's no chance that there's a chance that he may never play again. Let's be honest. It's getting slimmer and slimmer all the time, but it's a chance. So wait and see. Wait and see. That's all I can tell you.
For
RB
every
needs
for every
wings.
Frank Gore, there's 10 Marcus Lattimores.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That is a fact. Thank you, Trent Baalke. Ugh. Uh, let's see here. Neither was a QB competition, too. Oh man. Here we go. Thanks, Teran Lewis. Appreciate you both. Thank you, Izzy. I know we're running short on time here, TL. I know you need to get rolling around noon. I probably should too. Um, Maybe this is a good time to just sort of say thanks to everyone. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything new. I mean, Sim had a question really early on in the show that I told him I'd get back to. He said, "Do you see any surprise cuts from camp?"
Um, I don't know how much of a surprise it would be because he's played terrible, and I'm a Wolverines fan. But if he doesn't get it together this off season, I'm gonna go Ambry Thomas. You know, I know the 49ers like to hold on to their early draft picks, you know what I mean, and try to see what they can do with them, like the Jalen Hurds, and probably kept him a little bit longer than they should have. But so maybe that's not a surprise because he hasn't been played well. But I would say if we can't find a trade partner, maybe Elijah Mitchell if he can't stay healthy because uh, Jordan Mason's been looking good. You still got that Kalen LeBourne, I think his name was, out of Marshall, whatever.
Mayborn,
His LeBourne, yeah,
Ronald
he's
Awatt.
yeah. Then you still got TDP, but Dion thinks that TDP could be a cut, which would be a travesty that you cut two third round running backs in their second year being on the team, which would be crazy. We need to stop if TDP gets cut. We need to stop drafting running backs early because that would be Joe Williams, Trey Sermon, and then TDP. That's three running
I've,
backs we drafted in the top 4 rounds, and we're gonna cut. That would be terrible.
I've been saying the two things I don't trust Kyle with now anymore is QBs and third round running backs, no doubt.
No,
Riddy Musich in the house, or Music maybe. Don't think I've seen you here in the chat. He says, really looking forward to the 49ers running games, the elite 49ers running games. So am I. Also, just want to ask you if you had a sister named Missy. I grew up with a gal who was named Missy Music, and I think she had two younger brothers, or at least one younger brother. So if that's you, hit me up. Let me know. Be curious to know. My email is in my description on YouTube. Um, what else? So yeah, I mean, so you went offense, running backs. Yeah, I could see Elijah Mitchell do the injuries. I think Kyle loves him because he doesn't fumble and he's really good when he's healthy. But I'm
yes,
with you. I'd be totally happy to trade Elijah Mitchell away because he's. I won't say he's necessarily injury prone yet because again, too little sample size. But he's definitely, in my opinion, on his way to being injury prone. Another position group, I'll flip the field and go defense. I think linebacker, we have an embarrassment of riches there. We obviously have Fred and Dre as the starters, but then we have Oren Burks and McCray Ball coming back from last year, who both
hmm
showed flashes. I think Oren Burks is probably the front runner to replace Aziz Al-Shire. But then we drafted Lee Winters or D Winters
D Winters, yep,
and then Jalen Graham out of Purdue.
Purdue,
And then there's
yeah,
also Demetrius Flanagan Fowles, who's more of a special teamer,
yeah,
but a lot of good running linebackers there.
linebackers,
I could see us trading one of them, or maybe even two of them away to make room to not subject them to the practice squad where they're more than likely to get poached.
yeah.
So
We kind of did the same thing. Was it 3 years ago when we traded away that linebacker who was crazy? He was undrafted and we traded him to Denver and ended up getting draft capital out of it. You know who I'm talking about? I can't remember his
yeah,
name
yeah,
off the top.
yeah.
Tim, help me out,
I
or
do,
Ty, help me out. I know you guys know the linebacker we traded
man.
to Denver and got capital for,
Yeah,
and ended up
he was
being
really good. He
yeah, he
filled in
was good,
for
and
Fred one time, and um, I'm blanking on his name. He was out
yeah,
of
I
a
can't remember his
small
name.
school in the Midwest,
Yeah, he came
Division
from the same. I
two,
believe he came from the same school as the guy from the Colts, the linebacker from the
Division two or
Colts.
Division one double A,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was good,
and
and then like I
he
said,
was he was very good. I liked him a lot. I was sad
Jonas
to see him
Griffith.
go.
There it is.
Thank
Somebody
you.
put in the
There you
chat,
go.
Jonas Griffith. Yep, him.
That is it.
Yeah, yep. Undrafted guy. We end up getting draft capital from what a 6 round pick or whatever for him. So, yeah, you're probably right. I can see us getting somebody like that as well. So, you know,
There you go.
maybe like a Flanagan Falls or somebody like that because he has history with the Sala. He has history with Ryan's. Something like that.
There you go. Dion
As
from
well.
Niagara Game Podcast in the house, and maybe TDP or Ambry Thomas. I would throw one in, probably not training camp, but maybe by the trade deadline. Juwan Jennings, he's only on a 1 year deal, real cheap deal. He's going to be worth a lot more next year, I would assume, than what we're willing to pay, I wouldn't be surprised to see us trade him away while we can still get something for him.
Yeah,
Especially if Ronnie Bell does well or Danny Gray, that
yeah,
could be the end of the Juwan Jennings experiment.
yeah. You know, it's funny too. I think he's probably gonna have a great year because he is in a contract year. He has 1 year left on his deal, and so does Ray McLeod. So they're both could be on the trade block.
Yeah, I could see both of them being traded exactly. If Ronnie Bell and Danny Gray and maybe what's the other guy's name with the T? I'll never think of it right
Each,
now.
I think I know
Uh,
who you're talking about. I can't think of his name. He's going into a second year with us, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, he was undrafted last year. Anyway, well, we'll think of it and get back to everybody. But thanks everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate it. The chat's been kicking. I apologize. I kind of fell behind a little bit there, but you guys were just too fast. Oh, we got Anshul Shah here, formerly known as 49er Media. I'll be on with him today at 2:30 on his channel. I really make sure you check that out. Also, I'll have Ryan from No Border Sports here on TED Talks Ball at 4 p.m. today. So it's a busy Tuesday. And Teran, the DL 49er Magic underscore 23, Niner fan, Magic fan, born on the
That's right.
23rd of October. Appreciate you being here. Tell Mariah said hi. And,
Well,
look forward to doing this again before too long once we have some new stuff to chat about.
oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I know it's been kind of slow right now, and I kind of hate that the quarterback situation is always the talking point. And hopefully, when we get into training camp and stuff like that, we can start talking about position group battles and stuff like that. Like you said, like symmetry to possible cuts. Who can elevate. Stuff like that. So, yeah, I love that you had me on your show, and yeah, anytime, just give me some advance, and I'll do my best to make it on. That's and I had tweeted something the other day, and I think, to it made me think, and I'm not saying anybody on here, everybody on here is great, like the 49er media, Sim, stuff like that. But Ty Austin, Twin, these people, man, you know, if you're gonna watch this show, this is to all content creators. Have some integrity when you tell somebody you're gonna be on their show. If you sit there and you make an appointment, let's just say, and I say, "Hey Ted, I'm going to be on your show Friday at 10 o'clock." I don't care if Grant Cohn, David Lombardi, um, what's his name, Haberman, and Middlecoff, whoever it is. If they sit there and say, "Hey, can you be on my show Friday at 10?" I'm gonna have some integrity and say, "No, I'm already on with Ted at 10. Is there any other open slots?" Like you can't be doing that. I can understand if it's an emergency pops up, you're sick, that's different. I'm talking about when you tell somebody you're going to be on their show, be on their show and not cancel just because a bigger name so-called asks you to be on theirs. That's grimy. Like you need to have
especially
some
not
integrity.
especially not last minute when you're like already in the studio waiting for him. Like today I had it where Anshul and I were going to go on at 3 and I said, hey Anshul, Ryan wants to go with me at 4, do you mind if we move up? He said no problem. 2:30, no problem. There's no problem with
Yes.
changing shows. Just ask well in advance. Don't do it last minute and try not to cancel if you can, because people arrange their schedules for these things.
Yeah.
And most of us are busy folks and have other things to do, and we would have planned something else for that time slot had we known. So be as respectful as you can. Let us know. Cancellations happen, but when it happens a bunch of times and you see them all with bigger guys at the same time, that's when you're like, oh man, that's not good. And Twin
Yes,
Empire
Sam.
said T Martin. It's Tay Martin, I think, not T
Tamar. Yeah,
Martin,
that's
but
somebody in the chat said Tamar as well. Yeah. Yes,
yeah.
Sam, I agree. It is a home move, and I just like I said, I don't. It's just grimy, man. And if you're a content creator, and if you sit there and or even if you're not, regardless, if you tell somebody, "Hey, no, I'm on somebody else's show. Can you do that?" Another content creator should be able to respect that and be like, "Oh, you're on
Absolutely.
somebody else's show? Okay, cool. I'll be on this person's show. Well, how about another day?" Like, you can't be people can't be pissed off because you have your schedule wrapped up. So like I said, just if you're gonna say you're gonna be on somebody's show, just have some integrity and be on their show and not change it up just because somebody like a David Lombardi or somebody says, "Well, I want you on my show because you're gonna get more views or whatever." That's just a grimy move, and I hope everybody stays true to themselves and not try to make themselves look good by canceling on somebody else. That's just terrible to me.
Thanks. I made a short about it. You guys can see it. It says honor your commitments. And
Yeah.
it talks exactly about this. And there's a few other good ones in there from my show with Ty Alston, 10% Ty, podcaster agent extraordinaire. He can turn your podcast into podcash. So if you need to upgrade to a better show or you want better guests on your show, hit up Ty. He only charges 10%, folks.
That's
Go
not
on
bad.
before he gets too busy. Get him, get him. Anyway, thanks
Yeah,
everyone for coming.
for
Thanks,
sure.
Teran. I appreciate you
Yeah, for
being
sure.
here and look forward to chopping up again soon. I'll just say peace and go Niners.
You guys take care, fam.